Hello, friends. So the film starts by showing us a man. His name is Bob, and he is a sniper in the US Army. Along with him is his spotter, whose name is Denny. Both are currently on a mission where they have to protect their military convoy from enemies. At that moment, Denny shows Bob a picture of his wife and tells him that she is going for nursing training next month. The two are casually chatting when suddenly some enemy vehicles arrive. Denny quickly informs Bob about their location and the wind speed. Bob immediately fires a shot that directly hits the enemy's head, showing how skilled a sniper Bob is. But soon, more enemy vehicles arrive, and they also start firing at them. However, since the enemies don't know their exact location, none of the bullets hit them. Bob, in no time, takes down many of their men. Then, the enemies call for a helicopter to find them. Denny tries to contact their people, but they turn off all the radios, leaving both of them to die there. As soon as the helicopter arrives, it starts firing bullets at them, in which Bob's partner is killed. Seeing this, Bob becomes very angry and shoots down the helicopter. Then, we are shown a scene 3 years later, where Bob is hunting with his dog in a forest. After that day, Bob never returned to the military and was living in the forest under a hidden identity. One day, a retired military colonel named Johnson comes to meet him. He wants to talk to Bob privately, but Bob refuses to speak with him, saying that it was because of them that his friend died. If they had sent the backup team on time that day, his friend would still be alive. The colonel then reminds him of the oath he took before joining the military. He says, "You swore that you would never abandon your country under any circumstances and would always protect it." Hearing this, Bob thinks for a while and tells him that he will consider it. The colonel hands him a letter and leaves. As he leaves, Bob takes a picture of his car's number plate to investigate him. Bob spends the next few days thinking and finally decides to help them. The next day, Bob goes to all the places through which the president's convoy is supposed to pass. He examines everything very carefully and makes a plan accordingly. He then informs the colonel about all the planning and also tells him where the attack on the president could happen from. The colonel requests Bob to join their team, saying that they won't be able to protect the president without him because he is an excellent sniper. Bob agrees to help them. The next day, the president arrives to give a speech. Bob is also watching over him from a building. He is carefully observing every small detail. Then the president comes on stage to give his speech. Suddenly, a shot is fired, but it doesn't hit the president. Instead, it hits the man standing next to him, killing him instantly. On the other hand, a policeman standing behind Bob also shoots at him. Bob is completely confused about what is happening. He just tries to escape to save his life. Meanwhile, the colonel's men plant Bob's gun at the scene, making it appear that Bob fired the shot. They wanted to frame Bob for the murder. Bob escapes in a police car, and the police start chasing him. After a long chase, the police finally surround him from all sides. But Bob drives his car into the water, then catches a boat and escapes. After getting out of the river, he takes a car and drives away. Along the way, he sees many police officers who are searching for him. He then goes to an abandoned place and treats his injuries. After treating himself, he paints his face black so that no one can recognize him. After that, he drives to the house of Sarah, who is the wife of his old partner, Denny. At first, Sarah refuses to let Bob enter the house, but when Bob tells her that he didn't kill anyone and that he's being framed, she agrees to help him. Bob then gives Sarah a list of medicines and asks her to get them from the store. After that, we see an FBI agent named Memphis. He finds the case quite strange because he had read many articles about Bob and knew very well how skilled a sniper he was. That's why he couldn't believe that Bob missed his target from such a close range. He says he's also suspicious of the policeman who shot at Bob. To this, Galindo informs him that the policeman was killed just last night. Hearing this, Memphis's suspicion turns into certainty. He says it must have been the same people who framed Bob that also got the cop killed. Memphis then visits the location where the shot was fired. He examines the place very carefully and realizes that the sniper used a remote-controlled gun to carry out the shooting. Back in his office, he researches it and discovers that anyone could easily use a remote-controlled tripod gun to kill someone. This shocks Memphis. Meanwhile, Sarah brings back all the medicines, then knocks Bob out and starts treating his wounds. Sometime later, when Bob wakes up, Sarah tells him that they killed his dog. This deeply upsets Bob, and he vows not to let them live. A few days later, when Bob is well enough, he prepares to leave. Sarah comes to him and gives him a gun, saying that it was her husband's favorite gun, which he used every time he went hunting. This reveals that, in a way, Sarah also wants Bob to make those people pay for their actions. On the other hand, Memphis is also working tirelessly to catch those responsible. As soon as he finds out that some people from his own department are involved, he goes to Galindo and tells her everything. She advises him to stay away from all this because those people could have him killed at any time. But Memphis ignores her warning and leaves. When the colonel and his men find out that a CIA officer is after them, they plan to kill him. The next day, they kidnap Memphis and take him to an abandoned place. They ask him to tell them everything he knows about the case, but he refuses. They torture him, but he still doesn't speak. They then decide to kill him right there. But just then, Bob arrives. He takes down all the men one by one and rescues Memphis. Afterward, they go to a man who is very knowledgeable about guns. Bob asks him if a bullet can be fired twice, to which the old man replies that with paper patching, a bullet can indeed be fired twice. Bob then asks if a sniper can hit a precise target from 2,200 yards away. The man says that there's a sniper named Bob who can easily do that, not realizing that the man sitting in front of him is Bob himself. Then, the man mentions another name, which makes Bob realize that it's none other than the colonel's assistant. Afterward, Bob and Memphis buy a lot of supplies from the shop. Bob makes some bombs and also trains Memphis on how to use a sniper rifle. Once fully prepared, the two head to the sniper's house to attack. As soon as they arrive, Bob starts killing the sniper's men one by one and plants bombs everywhere. He then enters the house, where the sniper is already waiting with a gun. As soon as Bob arrives, the sniper shoots himself. Bob then notices that many military soldiers are surrounding the house, as the sniper had already informed the colonel of Bob's arrival. But just then, Bob triggers a blast outside, killing many soldiers, and the two of them manage to escape. As soon as the colonel finds out, he has his men kidnap Sarah. After that, he calls Bob and asks him to meet at a location, demanding that Bob hand over all the evidence against him in exchange for Sarah. But when Bob arrives, the colonel's snipers shoot him down. Seeing this, Sarah starts crying, but then the man gets up and starts walking toward them. As he gets closer, we see that it's not Bob, but Memphis, who had come in Bob's place. Bob had already sent him there wearing a metal plate to protect him, saving his life. Bob, hiding nearby, then kills all of the colonel's men. After that, he comes out of hiding and approaches them. By then, the FBI also arrives at the scene because Memphis had already given them the location. The FBI arrests everyone. However, when the colonel is brought before the judge, he claims that all his crimes were committed in Ethiopia, and for that, the US government cannot punish him. But this isn't the law of the jungle, and criminals like him shouldn't be allowed to walk free either. Bob realizes that the senior FBI officer is hinting that he should kill the colonel. As a result, they are forced to let the colonel go. Later that night, while they're celebrating their freedom, Bob shows up and kills each one of them. Then he gets into a car with Sarah, and they drive away. With that, the movie ends.